Hello, this is a really cool project because you don't have to do a lot of thinking in the beginning. You're just using your eyes and your careful, slow work. You get to choose a portrait of someone. Um, it might be someone that you already know and admire. It might be someone that you just kind of like the looks of and you'll research a little bit about them. Or it might be someone where you look at them and you're like, who is this? I don't really identify with how this person looks, and you can research them and find out more about them. Um, this process requires you to carefully rub a graphite pencil on the back of your photocopy. Notice my left hand, my non-dominant hand, is holding the paper spread out and flat. I look at the front and make sure that I'm getting really good coverage behind all of the details on my portrait. Using the side of your pencil or a larger piece of graphite will help you finish this sooner. The graphite should be all kind of stroked in one direction, and you should do it fairly heavy. You don't want to leave any gaps for yourself because it'll make it difficult later on to see what you're doing. So in a step-by-step project like this, do your best at each step so that you can make it easier on yourself later. If you do anything rushed or hurried, then you'll be like, oh, I should have done that better when you get to a later step and find it a little bit more challenging. So we want a solid coat of graphite on the back of the paper. If you're lucky to have graphite transfer paper or some kind of transfer paper, you can use that instead. But this is a neat way, especially when it's a small piece of art like this, to get the image transferred onto your own paper. I'm doing the graphite rubbing edge to edge. This took me a while to do, and I will fast forward now. So once you have the back of your art covered in graphite, especially dark and solid where the details of the face will be, you're going to get a piece of masking tape. Right now I'm touching the masking tape to my own clothing so that it picks up some fuzz and is a little bit less sticky than it normally would be. This is a great art tip. If you want to use tape but you don't want it to stay there forever, get some fuzz on it first. So I'm going to put the tape, sticky side up, halfway under my art. It doesn't matter which side you do it, but you want it to be pretty straight. And we're going to make a hinge with this tape. So I pressed my paper down on top. This is a good moment to make sure your fingers are clean. You don't want to touch this graphite and get graphite all over your fingers, or use a wipe to periodically wipe it off. Then I'm going to put my clean white cardstock down, and I'm going to fold it down over that. So now the photocopy is hinged to my art paper. Your next step is pretty fun, but takes patience. I actually really admire this person, Kerry James Marshall, so seeing his face is a sight for sore eyes. You may use a very sharp pencil, a mechanical pencil, or in this case, I'm using a pen because it's going to be hard and fine. And any place that I see an edge or a line, I'm going to trace it. This is mapping the face out. Why do I have my paper upside down? This is actually a really great move when you want to do your best observation without your knowledge getting in the way. If I had it right side up, I feel like my brain would start to say, wait, there's a full eye here. I need to make it a full eye. Instead of just looking, only looking and finding darks and lights. So the first thing to do is to trace out the outside of the figure. It's kind of the easiest thing to do. When I looked very closely at my printout, I saw that his hat has a white brim. I could see a little bit of shade around the outside. You want to be able to capture all the lights and all the darks. Also look at how slowly I'm tracing so that I can get exactly on the edges. Take little rests in between. If your hand gets tired, shake it out. But this is about slowly tracing little areas of light and dark with your pen. You might be looking and lose track of where a line ends, and that's fine. You can kind of let it just end. Or you might see a very solid piece of white and you can perfectly outline that, and we'll address it as a light value later on. It's best to just suspend your expectations of what it will look like while you trace, and then we'll be checking in later with how it looks underneath. So after a solid 5 minutes of just finding little dark areas, little edges, I'm gonna check it out and look. It'll look weird. It'll look a little bit strange. I want you to look for blank plain areas or areas that maybe you missed some detail, maybe there's no mouth, and see where you should go back. Resist the urge to draw directly on your art paper still, but go in wherever you know there's probably more detail. Here I found the inside of my hat brim was lacking, and add more detail. Take your time. After several minutes of slow, focused tracing, I can look at it and it feels like I've captured a lot more detail. I might see some shapes that aren't closed and see if I can go back and figure out where they really leave off. I found how that white shape on the forehead closes up a little bit down on the side. You can add textures where you see textures, and I love the texture here in the facial hair. And I keep going for a little bit. When you are abundantly sure that you've done your very best tracing, you can slowly remove the tape from your art. And we will keep this and keep it in good condition so that we can reference it for how the person looks and make little details. So I'm slowly peeling the tape. So I put my name in the corner of my art paper, and one place I'm going to go ahead and add in some firm detail with my black pen is the eyes. The line below your eyelid and your pupil is a good spot to go ahead and add the darkest dark if that is where you see some dark shadow to pop it out. We won't be able to fit too many other textures or words in those small areas, so I'm going to black it with a pen. Although, in hindsight, I wish I had used a black sharp colored pencil instead for this. It's a very black pen and I should have waited to get this dark, but black pen or black colored pencil will help you get these darkest parts of what is often the eye area of the face. The next step is to use a black or gray colored pencil to go ahead and lightly tone in some of the darkest areas that you see. We're not going to blacken them in quite yet because we have more detail to add, but you can go ahead and fill in some of your darker areas with a darker tone. It doesn't have to be black, but it can be a gray. Stay tuned for the next video where I show you how different pen thicknesses and different kinds of writing will help add value to our art.